One day, I didn't have nothing. Remember, I was living in that little bitty room. I just started using social media, putting my fingers to work. I had a lot of stuff to hide, because I was a crazy girl when I was in the past. I was the one up on the bar thinking I was Coyote Ugly. Y'all know what that is? Cowboy show. They'd be like, can y'all get this girl off the bar? She's hiding her down. If you know I'm this passionate for God now, you know I was cray. People with the worst past create the best futures. Because when God does reveal himself to us, when all of a sudden he brings us from the pit to the palace, all of a sudden he takes us from the basement to the pit house. And that's how God works. God says, I'm going to allow your tragedy to meet your destiny. And right in that moment, all of a sudden, I'm going to change your thinking. I'm changing your life. I'm messing up your friends. And I'm about to push you forward. That's how God rolls. That is how God rolls. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to tweet. I didn't like Twitter. And I remember I'd have like 20 friends. And I wouldn't say nothing. And I'd lose 5. I'm like, what did I do? I was talking to the screen. And God said, until you stop caring what people think about you, you ain't going nowhere. Stop looking at the numbers and start walking in your purpose. And all of a sudden, I remember watching and I thought, OMG. God just used Twitter to heal another place. Because I was caring about what people's affirmation was for me. I was wanting them to start following me because the more followers, just like the more accolades. Whoop, whoop, go kill, go. I needed people because I still wasn't where God wanted me to be. That's why I was happy one day, depressed one day. Happy one day, depressed one day. Shouting on Sunday, sad on Monday. Shouting on Sunday, mad on Monday. Because I was wanting you to approve of me. I wanted you. Y'all gonna have periods every 28 days. Y'all ain't gonna like me. So if I'm needing your affirmation over God's affirmation, then I'm a mess. Because y'all aren't consistent like God is. You see what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, I remember feeling this feeling of freedom. Like, oh, so what's up? Because God validated me. He validated you. You had a baby out of wedlock, but God already knew you were going to have a baby out of wedlock. Long before you had a baby out of wedlock, God knew you were going to be married 3 times. God knew that you were going to marry somebody that was undercover homosexual. He knew that you were going to go through some things in your life and be mocked and be laughed at and feel like you couldn't get up out of bed the next day because the whole world was mocking you because of your mistakes. He already knew, and he said in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans. I know every mistake that you're going to make. I know, sir, when you're hiding behind that computer screen looking at porn because you can't get this under control. And he said, I got you. I got you. I'm not going to judge you. I got you. I got you. You ain't going to stay this way forever. I'm about to wreck you in a good way. And in the moment of you feeling like your whole world's falling apart, your suddenly happens because you didn't abort the mission. Because you said, I'm a ride or die with you, God. I don't care if the rest of the world ever talks to me again. I remember what God did for me was he said, you live so nobody believes it. and you're going to wake up with dreams. I remember sitting in that little bitty room, that closet. All of a sudden, my friends and I ain't bragging, I'm just telling you what God's going to do for you too, because you're connected with me. And I'm a good connection. I'm a good soul right here. I live right. I pray right. I give my life. I consecrate my life right. I don't go anywhere and say, you got to give me money to go. I trust God and He gets me there. I live right. Sitting in that little bit room. Tweet. I went from 26 followers to 5,000. I didn't buy none of them. I didn't know you could buy them. I ain't buying nobody. Just like that, because God's a God of suddenly. And in that season, I watched my weight. I mean, I like to eat. I ain't scared of eating. I wasn't that girl that be like eating a salad, but I do. I'd be like, give me a steak. But all of a sudden in this season, I started watching God enlarge my territory. And so I go to this concert, James Fortune. I tell my husband all these wonderful things that are happening in my life, and he's like, who's that? And I'm sitting on this seat, and with my girlfriend that was singing, all of a sudden, I see a tweet go up, and it says, he said his wife's name, and he said, she gonna die when she knows I'm sitting back real talking. Something happened. Because I was sitting there thinking, OMG, OMG, OMG. Because I still do that. I still am so in awe of God every single day. And God, I literally saw my life in a little bitty room. Tweet. You know, people think you're like living the high life. And their perception of you is where God's taking you. Their perception of you is where God's taking you. That's why it's important to be in the will of God. That's why it's important to shake off toxic people. That's why it's important to control, alt, delete. That's why it's important to make sure that people in your life are good VIP people. Because these people sitting on the front row right here are the ones that I resemble. It's a fact. Who you hang out with is a prophecy into your destiny. I don't care if you've been with them since kindergarten. If they still calling you on Friday night to go out and get laid, you better delete, alt, send them on their way. If you ain't married, you should be doing that. My sermons are R-rated. Is it truth? True. You gotta help God help you by taking those people that you got in your VIP section right here. And sometimes you gotta say, I love you. I don't mean to make you feel any other way, but I love me enough to tell you, you're going to walk on up to that balcony and you're going to watch me from a distance. If that person is calling you every single day, gossiping in your ear, telling you, girl, I stay at that job as a CEO, you know you got a good plan. You're going to get a retirement fund in about 5 years. You've been hating that job every single day of your life, but you're going to live good on that $100 when you retire. But you may not even have when you retire. But because your faith isn't in God, it's in man. You ain't a water walker. Those people are telling you right here, you go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and enable you in your dysfunction. And you better be careful when people enable you in your dysfunction. If they're telling you it's okay, when you know in your heart it ain't okay, but they telling you it's okay, so it's making it okay for you, you better be careful because they're parasites. They don't want you to get well. They don't want you to get well. They don't want you and your husband to make it. They don't want you to go and follow your dreams because they're parasites on your dysfunction. They need you to stay down. Because as long as you're down, they don't look so bad. People tell me all the time, what would Jesus do? I'm like, I don't know, what would he do? Because in the Bible it tells me to guard my heart. Because around my heart is how I function. And God deals with the matter of the heart. At the end of the day, God's going to say, when that woman called you, that homeless woman, and said, I can eat. And you said, I am in bed and I ain't getting up. God's like, He's watching you when you get on that status of somebody and start ridiculing them and judging them because of the way they are. Because you're just as bad as they are. But that's what happens when we don't keep the right people in our lives. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to not feel alone. The one thing that I learned about God was when the enemy makes your heart palpitate. You know what I'm talking about? You start getting an anxiety attack. And some of you go to the emergency room and that's your second home because you're scared to death you're having a heart attack, because your mama had a heart attack, your ex had, all these people had heart attacks, so you're going to have a heart attack too. So you're walking around with this fear. And what he does is he keeps you bound there. He keeps you any way he can, because God is not a God of chaos and confusion. God don't make you have panic attacks. You don't got to walk around with panic attacks. You don't have to walk around with anxiety. You ain't got to walk